When I first met Lena, she carried a kind of energy that could shift the entire atmosphere of a room. Her laughter was magnetic, the kind that made people pause mid-conversation just to listen. She was bold, clever, and unapologetically confident. People naturally drew toward her, and I was no different. Being near her made life feel brighter, unpredictable, and full of pulse. When we started dating, I admire how outgoing she was. I always believed trust wasn't something to demand. It was something you offered freely. But marriage has a way of uncovering what dating tends to hide. Over time, that same social spark I'd fallen for began to burn differently. Her friendships stopped feeling casual. They became constant. Endless late-night texts, secret lunches, and private jokes I was never part of. At first, I told myself not to be the jealous husband stereotype. I tried to stay calm, to remind myself that love meant giving space. But I learned that when space turns into an escape, it stops being freedom. It becomes distance. Her phone was always flipped face down. Her laughter always happened behind closed doors. Messages vanished before I could even notice them. And whenever I asked who she was talking to, she twisted back at me with a quiet, cutting line. "Don't you trust me?" It wasn't the words that hurt. It was how easily she made my concern sound like an accusation. Eventually, I began staying longer at work, just to avoid the heavy silence that waited at home. Ironically, she seemed lighter for it, happier, freer. That's when I realized she didn't want freedom from control. She wanted freedom from accountability. Then came the night that changed everything. She stumbled in after midnight, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked who she'd been with, she gave a little shrug and smirked. "Just friends. Stop being jealous, Mark." No guilt, no hesitation, just mockery. Something inside me went quiet. Not rage, not heartbreak, just that deep, still understanding that comes when you finally see the truth for what it is. A few days later, it all came undone. I found her in the bedroom, shoving clothes into a suitcase, her voice sharp and defiant. "You're suffocating me. Either accept my male friends or I'm leaving." She wanted me to react, to beg, to argue, to fight for her. But I was done playing that part. I folded my arms and said evenly, "Perfect. I'll call you a taxi." The change in her expression was immediate. Her confidence cracked. Her hands trembled, and the suitcase slipped from her grasp with a dull thud. "You're serious?" she whispered. I nodded once. "You've been threatening to leave for months. I figured I'd finally help you do it." For the first time, she was silent. Completely silent. No tears, no shouting. Just a slow realization that the man she thought would never stop fighting for her had finally stopped caring. After a long pause, she sat down and said softly, "You don't love me anymore." I took a slow breath and replied, "I did, more than you'll ever understand. But love without respect eats you alive. I offered you trust. You gave me tests." She looked at the floor like she didn't recognize herself anymore. For years, she had held the upper hand. The guilt trips, the teasing, the subtle manipulations. But in that moment, none of it mattered. She finally understood what indifference sounds like. That night, she didn't leave. She stayed in the guest room, crying quietly. I didn't go to her. For years, I've been the one to patch things up, to apologize just to keep the peace. This time, I let the silence do what words never could. The next morning, she tried to act like nothing had happened, humming softly as she made coffee. I walked in, grabbed my mug, and said calmly, "You don't need to pretend. You said you were leaving. I won't stop you." That's when her voice broke. I didn't mean it. I met her eyes and said, "Yes, you did. You just didn't expect me to believe you." Weeks went by. She started trying again, cooking my favorite meals, leaving little notes, brushing my arm in passing like before. But when respect is gone, affection feels hollow. I stayed kind but distant, because after your heart has been bruised enough times, numbness becomes your armor. One night, she asked, "Can we start over?" I looked at her and said quietly, "You can't rewrite a story after you burn the first chapter." She didn't argue. She just cried, knowing this time it was truly over. Eventually, she left, No shouting, no slam doors, no suitcase theatrics. Just silence. Her key left on the counter said everything. I didn't chase her. Some endings don't need closure, only peace. Months passed, and the house began to feel different. Cleaner, lighter, alive again. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I learned that quiet can be beautiful when it isn't filled with tension. Later, I heard she tried reaching out to the same men she'd once prioritized over her marriage. None of them wanted her around anymore. Her charm had faded the moment she stopped having a husband to disrespect. That's when I understood something simple. Life teaches lessons that love never can. One night, my phone buzzed. It was her. "Mark," she said softly, "do you hate me?" I paused and smiled faintly. "No, Lena, I just finally love myself more."